Well, Ubisoft revealed Assassin's Creed Shadows last night, and I'm pretty sure that you guys are already stoked for the game after watching the gameplay. But there's always remained this one question that everyone's been asking around. How is the parkour system? And luckily, I got a ton of information behind the closed doors from Ubisoft regarding the parkour system, combat, as well as the open world exploration. And if you're excited about the parkour system in Assassin's Creed Shadows, because I think you should set yourself up to change your expectations about this game. Because after what I've heard and seen about this game's parkour system, and what I'm going to be showing you guys at the end of this video is definitely going to change your impression to either love or hate Assassin's Creed Shadows to the core. Now, first thing first, Ubisoft gave us a first insight into the first ever gameplay for Assassin's Creed Shadows, and from the first looks of it, the gameplay actually looks pretty good, and a lot of people were impressed, and most of the people that were hating on the game seem to have turned to take a liking to Assassin's Creed Shadows after the gameplay was revealed. But that actually comes with a whole big catch. Because from the parkours that we've seen in the gameplay that Naoe performs, it does look incredible, and all of the animations that you see in the parkour system is motion captured. And it kind of seems like Assassin's Creed Shadows might have even beaten the standards that Assassin's Creed Unity has always been setting all the way high up when it comes to the parkour system. And something that really changed my perspective after speaking with Ubisoft and receiving a ton of information about the parkour system is basically related to Yasuke. Now, you guys might be wondering why Ubisoft showed off all of those parkour action, the stealth gameplay, and everything only with Naoe, and there was basically not a single parkour or even any sort of basic climbing mechanism. And the truth behind all of this is a little bit depressing, and that's because Yasuke in Assassin's Creed Shadows will not be able to perform parkour as Naoe does. Now, this not only stands out for parkour system, now this also means that Yasuke is not going to be able to climb on all the walls that's available in the game. Now, in one of the shots that you see here, Naoe is finally able to jump into one of the fences, which was previously impossible for any of the previous Assassin's Creed characters. And since Naoe is a Shinobi, she's going to be the first assassin character who's going to be able to perform the best parkouring animations in the entire series. Now, that actually takes away from the fact that we need to sacrifice the parkouring mechanism when we play as Yasuke. Now, as soon as I received this information about the parkour system, I was not really ready to believe that Assassin's Creed Shadows, that playing as Yasuke is going to be a completely different experience. So I watched every single exclusive footage that Ubisoft shared with me, from each and every single combat mechanism to parkouring system to running animations, as well as the PDF file that Ubisoft provided, in which all the details remained as to what we can do in the game as individual characters. And I finally came to a conclusion, and I enlightened myself as to why Yasuke not being able to perform the parkouring animations or any of the gameplay mechanism is going to make a perfect sense. Now, if you're someone that basically loved the parkour system in the game and loved what you saw with the gameplay and decided to go ahead and pre-order Assassin's Creed Shadows, or maybe you're still planning to pre-order the game, then I would strongly recommend you guys to watch this video before you take any of those decisions if you have a confused mind state on whether or not if you should pre-order this game. Because after you watch this video, your expectations about the game and how the parkour is going to work, and including the entire gameplay, is going to be completely different from the expectations that you might have already set yourself up to. Now, first thing that Ubisoft actually explained is that Yasuke is going to be this massive, gigantic character who's somewhere between 6'5" to 6'8" in terms of height. And in one of the scenes, you can actually see that Naoe is very tiny compared to Yasuke, and the gameplay differences between both of these characters are going to be completely based on the characteristics of each of these characters. Now, the first thing that really makes sense is that Yasuke is a very huge character, and he's also coming from a background where he's neither had any sort of Shinobi training, nor is he even an assassin or a hidden one. And since Oda Nobunaga, who is the leader of that territory, is actually impressed by Yasuke, since he was very obsessed that this man looks very different. Since Yasuke was a very unique looking man, and he was black at the same time, and there was nobody out there in Japan that looked like Yasuke. At the same time, he was really good when it comes to combat and brute force, due to which Oda Nobunaga decides to make Yasuke as his personal samurai. So this opens up a whole different storyline and a whole different perspective of the character itself. And Ubisoft wanted to take this game in a complete RPG manner. And when I say RPG manner, I don't mean the gameplay aspect of having different armor sets and weapons and all the different stats available for all the different gears you own. From the term RPG, I actually mean role-playing games. So Ubisoft has basically mentioned that they're trying to stick to each character's role. So for the very first time, when you're trying to switch between both of the characters, when you're trying to play as Naoe, you're going to have a completely different perspective of the game and how the gameplay works. It's going to be more fluid. The character is going to feel much more faster, at the same time more agile. Now Naoe is also said to be much more weaker compared to Yasuke, and her attacks are barely going to make any difference on tougher enemies. So the best tactics for Naoe is basically going to be to avoid most of the combat in the game. That's going to be a bit out of her league if the enemies are stronger, taller, as well as brute forced. Now when it comes to Yasuke, it's a completely different story. He's a brute force character, and if you take a look at the character design of Yasuke, you would already say that he's a huge, massive, gigantic, monstrous character. Now he's not just any average samurai that you see in the game. Now from the gameplays that Ubisoft has shown, if you have noticed this one thing, there are different types of enemies, and most of the enemies that you fight off are actually samurais. Now the first samurai that you get to see in the game are completely armorless, and they're pretty lean and tiny bodies. And then the second samurai that you see are the basic mid-variant samurais who are going to be medium-sized, they're not super huge or whatever. And then finally comes like the huge brute force guys who are super tall, super muscular, and gigantic in figure, which is very similar to what Yasuke is. So there are different types of samurais and different body types, and all the different types of characters in this game are going to be moving and playing in a completely different manner. And the same goes for our protagonist Yasuke as well, because Yasuke is one of those super tall, monstrous, brute force character. It's going to be a very strong and weighted character, and when you play as Yasuke, you're actually going to be feeling the weight of this character. So you're not going to be able to move as fast as Naoe, neither are you going to be able to perform most of the parkour animations. Now Yasuke can of course do some basic climbing, running animations, as well as jumping, but that doesn't mean that he's going to be any close to what Naoe is going to be performing in the game. So most of the people that actually love Assassin's Creed games for the parkour system and the movement mechanisms, I honestly think that Naoe might be your favorite character of all time. But then playing as Yasuke is basically just going to unlock this whole new feature of brute force, and you're going to feel the character's weight and strength in every single combat aspects. Now Ubisoft says that the game is actually designed in a way that players are going to take advantage of both the different characters having their own different characteristics, that players are going to take advantage of both the characters in their own ways. Because there are going to be some situations and missions in the game which you will actually prefer to play as Yasuke on your own, because Yasuke is going to be like this brute force character who's going to tackle some of the most toughest enemies available in the mission. So every time you start a mission, it's going to give you an option on whether you want to do it as Yasuke or if you want to do it as Naoe. Now there are in fact character specific missions in the game as well, where a specific character can only complete certain missions and you will not be able to play as any character you want in a very few scripted missions that's available in the game. But apart from that, you can basically choose to play as whoever you want. Now most of the times when you want to get from destination A to B, the best choice to pick would be Naoe, because she's going to be more agile, and the way that she's going to move across the open world is going to be much faster than Yasuke. But at the same time, if you want to go ahead and choose more combat, if you're getting into fights and want to win the fights as quickly as possible, then I think Yasuke is actually going to be your best choice. It seems like the game is going to give both the characters equivalent chances, where the lack of parkour system with Yasuke is actually going to be compensated with how the combat mechanisms is going to be working. Now was I disappointed that Yasuke cannot do any of the parkours that Naoe is able to do? Yes, of course, that was indeed my first impression, but then later on I did kind of understand why Ubisoft had to do it, because they're just basically trying to stick to the lore and trying to stick to the character's RPG mechanisms, where you're basically just role-playing as Yasuke, who's a huge heavy character who's not going to be as fast or agile as Naoe. So it kind of makes a lot of sense, but at the same time, from a gameplay perspective, I know most of you guys might have expected Yasuke to have like a really good parkour system. So that's not going to be the case, and from all the videos that I've made from last night, I've I've been seeing the comments. There was at least 100 comments down there basically asking about the parkour system, and I replied to as many of you guys as I possibly could and told you guys that I was going to share all of the information about the parkour system. Now honestly, I would love to know what you guys personally think after you've learned about this information, about how the parkour systems is going to be working, and not just parkour, the entire gameplay mechanism, and how the combat and everything is basically going to be mattering based on what character you're going to be role playing as. So if you want to play as Yasuke, it's completely fine. You're going to enjoy all the combat, and if you're going to play as Naoe, you're of course going to enjoy all the movements and traversing and stealth system. So what I would like to know now is for you guys to go down in the comment section and let me know if you're disappointed about the parkour system, or do you think that Ubisoft has done a good deed with making both the characters completely different from each other. I would love to hear your thoughts, and have you guys changed your mind in terms of pre-ordering the game? Let me know what your opinions are down below in the comments. I would love to go ahead and read your comments and reply to as many of you guys as I possibly could. Now if you guys could just take a few seconds of your valuable time and drop a like on this video, it really goes a long way. It helps the channel a lot more than you guys think. It helps me get motivated in order to make better content for you guys every single day. So your support is very much appreciated, and I'm very thankful to all of you guys who have been supporting this channel with all your might. Now with that being said, I will be back with more information about the combat system, the stealth, as well as all the gameplay details that Ubisoft has shared with me behind the closed doors. And I will be covering Assassin's Creed Shadows completely on this channel, as well as many other upcoming games. So if you're someone that's interested in this stuff, and if you're new to this channel, then you should go ahead and subscribe. It's absolutely free of cost. You don't have to pay a dime on YouTube. And at the same time, you guys are going to get updated, notified with all the latest content that I upload on these games. Now with that being said, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of the day, and I will see you guys on tomorrow's video. Until then, take it easy fams, and goodbye.